Get some rose incense going so we could consecrate this session right now. Okay, welcome back to Maldo's Magic, a We the Problem production, where we delve into the mysteries of esoteric, Freemasonry, high magic, mysticism, and so much more. Today I'm honored to have on the show a good friend and brother, Brother Roy Musico. Good afternoon, Brother Roy.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining me today. It's a pleasure, always a pleasure to connect with fellow travelers on this fascinating journey. Before we dive into the heart of our conversation, why don't you start by giving our listeners a brief introduction to yourself, your background, how you came to Freemasonry, and your journey so far. The floor is yours.
Thank you, brother. Listen, I want to thank you for having me. I'm Brother Roy Musico, Junior Warden at Limbrook Massapequa Lodge number 822. I'm a Scottish Rite member of the Valley of Rockville Center. I'm a member of the chapter, council, and commandery, as well as the Elia Grotto. I got into Masonry. Somebody I grew up with, we wound up reconnecting probably about 15 years after we, kind of went to school and such. And I was on LinkedIn maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, and I noticed he was member to a lodge. So, Freemasons have been around a long time. So I've done I went down the rabbit hole a little bit. And it was very interesting. It's got a rich history. You've got all these presidents that have been Masons. It's like, okay. So now I actually knew somebody who was a member. So I said, Josh, what's going on? I was like, can you tell me a little bit about this lodge? And he's like, why? And he's like, why do you, why you? I'm like, well, I'm interested in becoming a member. How do you do that? He's like, well, why? I'm like, well, it's got a rich history. It's got a great slogan. It says it makes good men better. I was like, I need some polishing. He's like, okay. He's going to schedule a time. You're going to come down. You're going to have an open house. You can meet the brothers. So we set up a date. And I went. And he canceled. Yeah.
Wow.
So
he canceled.
He canceled. So I was like, okay, it happens. Happened a second time. Schedule a date, canceled. I'm like, what's going on here? I'm like, happened third time. 3 times the charm. Canceled. I was like, at this point, maybe it's not in the cards for me, right? So I reached out to somebody else who I knew who was also a Mason, because now I'm like, I'm on the path. Like, I'm going to become a Mason. I want to become a Mason. I want to be a better version of myself.
Yep.
I need some help. So then I eventually, hooked up with a brother, and he said, okay, you can come down. So I went back to my buddy Josh. I'm like, Josh, what do you look for in a lodge? He's like, why? I was like, well, there's a one in Brooklyn. I'm going to go check out. He's like, whoa. Now he's like, all right, you really want to come? I was like, yeah, I really want to come. So I guess he was really guarding that door heavy, right? And I appreciate that. So in April of 2018, I got raised at Cornerstone Lodge 178, Second Manhattan, which is Metro District, now in the city. And, the experience, it started.
Wow.
And it was awesome.
So it's interesting. So it basically sounds like at first that Westgate was guarded pretty heavily.
Yeah.
Right? Because as Masons, we're trained to do that. We need to guard the Westgate, right? Because Masonry is like a second family, right? We're born into a family, but Masonry is a family that we're obligated into.
Sure.
So looking at it, I guess I could understand, how, maybe they wanted to really see how much of a seeker you were, or how serious you were, because I'm sure they probably have throughout, their time as a lodge, people that were maybe seeking for the wrong reasons.
Sure.
So I think that's very interesting. So, the title for this podcast, I wanted it to be Your Masonic Journey and the Scottish Rite, because we had several talks in the past.
Sure.
And I think we had, similar storyline with Masonry, seeking it for similar reasons. Maybe for me, more of the esoteric, right, or the deeper symbolism. Obviously, my main reason for joining was more or less for the charity, right, and to do charitable works. But for me, I immediately after I was raised, within a couple of months, as you know, they say it might not be the right thing to do, I jumped straight into the Scottish Rite. So, tell me about like your journey as okay. So now you knocked on the door, you finally got in,
Yeah,
and then what happened?
so there's a lot of things. Now I start participating in the rituals, right? So I'm starting to do Q's and A's and tools, and you're starting to learn about these things, and you start learning about what goes on at lodge, the inner workings of a lodge, and everything like that. But listen, if anybody's kind of jumped down the rabbit hole, I mean, obviously there's some other topics that you might want to speak about that might not be so popular, right? So there was a brother of mine who just passed away. Rest in peace. He joined the York Rite, and he did Roll Arch, and he did Commandery. And we started to have a conversation. I was like, Scottish Rite, something I always looked at and was very interesting to me. He's like, well, you ought to go check it out. And I was like, okay. So I found myself, it's about 15, 20 minutes from my house. I live in Long Beach. Scottish Rite's in Rockville Center, right? So it's very close to my house. So made a call. He made a call for me and had another brother meet me at Scottish Rite so that I didn't have to walk into that room that was tremendous and packed, by myself, right?
Yeah.
I meet illustrious brother Mark Bergson, who instantly makes me feel at home, like family. I signed the petition, seen the fourth degree, and I wasn't, listen, I wasn't not feeling it yet. Later on that night, they said, hey, we're having a lecture upstairs. You're more than welcome, to come up.
Oh, wow.
So I said, oh, okay, great. So I go upstairs, and they're doing a lecture on sacred geometry, Kabbalah, alchemy, and magic. And at that point, I just knew that I was home. And it was the best feeling on the planet. It felt so good. It felt right.
Wow.
Yeah, it felt right. It was like, okay, you've arrived. This exists. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I think that's the same feeling I got too as well. Because obviously I joined. You have to join. For the viewers that don't know, there's 3 degrees. You have to be in a Blue Lodge Mason first. The highest degree is Master Mason, and then from there you could choose to join concordant bodies. And for myself, I was involved in some esoteric groups prior, so I was into the deeper symbolism. Or I'm like, I know it's here. And when I joined the Scottish Rite, it was very similar. It was like, wow, I could have conversations about Kabbalah, alchemy, and I'm not getting looks like, oh, that's not what this is about. But it was like they could actually have conversations where they understand it. And that's what I'm like, wow. That's why, for me, I've always told, even obviously same, I'm in Royal Arch, the Commandery, Patro Commandery 65, and I still feel strongly, and this is my opinion, that, the Scottish Rite is the most esoteric part of Freemasonry. What do you think about that?
I think it's definitely a major esoteric group. I think it's a modern day mystery school. I think that within the body of the Valley, there's another group called the Magus Guild. Now they meet 4 times a year on the solstices and the equinoxes to discuss some pretty esoteric topics that I don't think are completely mainstream for everybody. If you're into it, that's the right place for you. Even if you want to just check it out, it's something that you might want to see. That's something you're not going to come across every day. I think the Magus Guilds have been pretty fun, eye-opening, and the exposure that you get towards different systems and different types of people that practice different things. To me, I look at that. I said, this is amazing.
Yeah, I could agree too, because it's funny. I met Laraco at Eastern Star event, Master Mason night, and I was the EA. When I became an EA, the same week, I traveled to a lodge in the city. Brother Rene Perez, I consider him like my big brother in Masonry, right? And he basically said, come down, you could witness the first degree. So the minute I became, a Mason, I went straight to, Grand Lodge building, to the 8th floor, to George Washington 285 Lodge to witness the first degree. Because that's how passionate I was about it, and it's just been amazing. So then when I kept traveling and went to Eastern Star event, I met Laraco there, and he was talking about, the Scottish Rite, and I knew that's where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
You know, because our brother Renee would do lectures there, and I'm like, how do I get involved? He's like, you got to be a master Mason. I'm like, all right, I'm going through the process. So then he was talking about the Magus Guild and the deeper subjects that they touch on, some high magic stuff that I was already involved with, and I'm like, that's it. So I could definitely agree with you. I went to the first Magus Guild, and it was incredible. You know, they had a different lecture on, and it was great. And then I actually got to do a lecture there. So that was, I gave my second lecture in Masonry, you know, on the Martinus and Elu Cohen there, along with a little brief ritual. So it was like definitely, you know, hit that spot of like, wow, this is what I was searching and seeking for in Masonry, and to actually find it, I think that was like one of the
It's a
one of
treasure.
the best things to like just really show that wow, there, you know, it is in this craft.
Yeah, it's a total treasure. You know, I know some people that, you know, they want people to stay around, you know, the Blue Lodge a little bit more, right, in the beginning, you know, for the first year or so. And I completely get it. Retention's got to be, you know, we want to keep as many people in as possible. For me personally, going to Scottish Rite, I think made me appreciate Blue Lodge more. Because, you know, knowing what you've just seen without revealing any secrets,
Yeah.
you could still have a conversation as to, like, you know, broad idea of what I just witnessed, and you can have that conversation with somebody that you know is safe to have that kind of conversation with, right? And then maybe you'll inspire them to want to do it, and then they'll come back, and then you'll speak with somebody about it. And it's light in Masonry. It's there. You just got to find it.
Yeah, you know, and it's like I think, you know, I think I was told that too. You know what? Just kind of don't rush it. You know, it's not a sprint; it's a marathon, which I agree. You know, totally. But another part of me is like, when you know it's there, you know, and it's like, why would I not want to experience it? And you know, it's I also think if your Blue Lodge does a great job at your first experience with Masonry, you can never not want to go back to it. Like you know, Scottish Rite and any other concordant body, I think just amplifies your contribution to Blue Lodge, and you know, helping to be the one that does the transmitting for newer brothers coming in. So meaning it only strengthens the brotherhood. I feel like in Blue Lodge.
I agree.
Obviously, some might go to Blue Lodge less because they think, well, they're in the Scottish Rite, so this is, you know, more important to them. But you know, we all have free will. We all have to have our own path, right?
Sure.
So, but yeah, I think it's to join and not join the Scottish Rite or any concordant body. I think you're doing yourself a disservice. You're not getting the full picture. You know, you're not getting the full meal.
Right.
In a sense, right? You know, if you got a buffet and you basically, you know, go just try out just the appetizer and that's it, and you leave.
So it's tough. So, you know, had I not found Scottish Rite, you know, I might have just been a dues paying member, because when I originally joined my mother lodge, I was working downtown, and then eventually I moved back to Long Island, and trying to get to the city at 6:30 on a Monday from Long Island was a little bit much in my line of business at the time, right? So I was able to go to Scottish Rite. Listen, it was always fully transparent. You know, after I moved, I was like, look, I don't want to commit and then not be able to, you know, fulfill my my obligations to you. And they were all fine with it, and they said, hey, it's Masonic maturity. Appreciate you letting us know. And so I started going to Scottish Rite, meeting some brothers there, and after a while, getting close with guys like, you know, Lustrous Brothers, Mike LaRocco, Berkson, Hanson, Mark Corrado, Louis Saavedra. You know, these are all great brothers. These are some of the best brothers I've ever met, you know.
Great brothers.
I mean, ever. You know, we get to do all sorts of cool stuff with Scottish Rite, too. I mean, we did turkey drives. We had special needs baseball. So Scottish Rite's pretty, it's got a good everything, right? There's a lot of great stuff there. But after going to Scottish Rite and meeting these guys from Limbrook, I wound up being a friend to the lodge, going, hanging out, you know, helping out, being a conductor, whatever I can do.
Yeah.
But I started hanging because it's like 15 minutes from my house.
Oh,
So
wow.
I didn't have to like leave work at 4:30 on a Monday to get to the city at 5:30 and be an hour early, you know? Now I could leave work at 7 o'clock and be at lodge by 7:30. Big, you know, it's a big difference for me. So eventually we made it, we made it official. I became a member of Limerick, Massapequa. I kept my membership to my mother lodge, of course, which I'm forever grateful for,
Yeah.
because they raised me, right? So I was born there, so I'll always be a member. But yeah, Scottish Rite's been really, really great, and I always point to Scottish Rite when I think about Masonry. I don't know if I would even be here, this conversation being had I not knocked on that door. That's the truth.
Right, and even, how'd we meet, right?
Yep.
Scottish Rite. So it's interesting because, so you had joined in the city, right?
Yep.
You were living closer, right?
I was working downtown.
You were working downtown, so
Yeah.
it was easy. But it's interesting how, I think it's the beauty of Masonry, but how it shows how universal it is. How that, obviously there was a time when there was more lodges, but there's still enough lodges where, you can be working someplace and you could find a lodge close by, or you could probably find a lodge close by to where you live. And I think that's why I enjoy that, because I'm also in two blue lodges, and I joined Alsani Lodge in Northport, where it's a little bit of a hike,
Right.
but it has that like traditional, deep esoteric, spiritually minded egregore there, which I gravitate to, and Connecticut is my mother lodge, also has my heart, because I've been going there for years with other groups too as well, and just the fellowship there is second to none. It's amazing there, and I think it's like the beauty of it, where you could really grow and evolve in Masonry, and there's enough outlets and lodges and concordant bodies to help you to do that.
Yeah, it's big. Every chance I get to go back to my mother lodge, I go. Right, so I think they're doing a fellowcraft degree in February.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm coming with a couple of guys from my lodge. I said, hey, you guys want any help?
Yeah.
They said, why not? So hey, I'm going to do some senior deacon work. I got I got Brother Andre coming through to do the middle chamber, and Brother Bill Loft is going to come through to do the tools. So even though I'm not active, like let's say in line at my mother lodge,
Yeah.
I get to still help out. I get to still try to whatever I can do for my mother lodge, I'm always going to do.
Yeah.
Right. I'm grateful. But I will tell you that what I didn't know in the beginning, being that I wanted to be a Mason, nobody, to tell you the truth, I probably wouldn't have even cared, but nobody ever talks about the convenience thing, right? Like sometimes like it's more convenient to do something that's a little bit closer to you,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then when things get twisted, you're out in Long Island, it's like, yikes, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
And you're thinking like now the journey's over in a sense, because it's like, well, if I can't make it to lodge, well, obviously, yeah, maybe I'm still a Mason because I got my third degree, but
Of course, yeah.
what am I supposed to do now?
Wow.
So that's why Scottish Rite just introduced me to a whole bunch of new men. Way before any of these guys became illustrious, all these brothers would treat me like family.
Wow.
And I knew that these guys were great guys, regardless of letters and numbers and whatever. These guys were straight up guys, all the best guys. And yeah, to find what you're looking for is tremendous. And even today, in the next class that we have going on, we're going to be doing a fellowcraft degree in February.
Okay.
I've got two guys that are in that class that are my guys, that I'm sponsoring them,
Oh,
right?
good.
And you'd be surprised. Both of them are coming to this, this fraternity for the esoteric.
Yeah.
That's where they're coming from. And
Yeah.
and I'm on the ground floor. I mean, so to speak, I feel like I'm on the ground floor, and I feel
Okay.
like a lot of the new people that come in, this is where the interest is. After having conversations with them, listen, you might get one person, it's like, hey, I'm into doing charity. You might get another person, just, wants the brotherhood. But after having conversations with them, seeing them in the tattoos, I mean, it's right in your face. Like, why they're coming.
It's funny because like I've heard this saying thrown around that we're like the younger generation, and I say younger generation, I want to say from maybe 21 to 45, right?
Yep.
Some of them consider us like the Dan Brown Masons. Have you heard that before?
No.
I've heard that where meaning, and for the record, Dan Brown is not a Mason, but meaning the Masons that are in, we're seeking for like the quest, we're seeking for like the hidden knowledge, we're seeking for the esoteric, the mysticism, of Masonry, because that's what we're drawn to at Masonry, because we see it.
Sure.
The Bible says it too. For those that have eyes to see, for those that have ears to hear. In the Book of Revelations and other books too as well. Because some people have that eyesight to see. It just sticks out. Maybe based on past readings or different maybe groups we were involved with, or different interests. So it's interesting. I feel like Masons that went through it. Obviously, you've been in the craft more years than I have, but Masons that been through it a few years now. They join the Scottish Rite. They're Sir Knights. They're companions. I think it's our duty to be the hermit and have that lantern up on the holy mountain, guiding the way for those that are seeking it. And letting them know that it's there.
Yeah.
You may have to work. You may have to climb that mountain. And sometimes it's not easy to climb the mountain. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's not, right? So the way I see it, if a brother's going to sponsor somebody to become a Mason, right? You should know this person. You should know what their interests are. You should know that, hey, if a person wants to do charity, well, we do this and we do that. We'll do a turkey drive, and we'll do special needs baseball, or we'll do Salvation Army, ringing the bell. Like,
Yep.
we can do this, right? But if you have people that are into hermeticism, and they want further light, I think that if you're going to sponsor these people, I believe it's your responsibility to show them the way.
Yeah.
You'd be the tour guide for them. Like, look, you can go this way, you can go this way, but it's very important that you want to keep these people engaged, because I don't think that you're going to necessarily, like, if you show somebody what they're looking for, I don't think that they're not going to want to come back to Blue Lodge.
Mm-hmm.
I think they want to come back to Blue Lodge better than ever, because they found what they're looking for, and they want to come back, and they want, and they're going to want to tell people about it because they're excited, and I think that's how this thing grows.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think any companion would know, right, from the most excellent master degree is what we're charged to do. So it doesn't, just because you become a companion or a Sir Knight, it doesn't mean that you stop going to Blue Lodge. You're more or less charged and obligated to, go back to it or be present in it and be that light, be that leader, that shows the brothers that it is in Masonry, and Masonry, can and will make you a better man. So I feel like it's something that we're charged to do. We have to do it.
Yeah, I think, again, you got to show everybody the whole picture. And like I said, you don't want to just, get one part of the meal and miss out on the other, right? You show these people
Mm-hmm.
what's available to them, and you just try to just size it up. I mean, listen, some people just come to Lodge for brotherhood, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's tons of events that you can go to, and dinners and such, if you want the social aspect of it. But I feel like you should always show people what they're looking for so that they can get the whole picture, right?
I agree. So I wanted to kind of jump into some questions too, right? So how do the lessons of the Scottish Rite differ from those of Blue Lodge? Are they different, in your opinion?
That's a great question. Listen, the Scottish Rite degree system's a little bit different. They've got a lot of different degrees, and inside of every degree, there's a lesson, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing Blue Lodge, like, we obviously have the lessons, amongst those degrees. Scottish Rite has different lessons in each one of those degrees, so I would say it's definitely different, because every single degree in Scottish Rite Masonry is different.
Okay.
So each one of them is different. So there's a lesson to be had in all.
Okay. So do you think it's like is there a core message that is basically seen throughout the experience from the first to the third, and then within the Scottish Rite? I know you're saying it's different in nature. Maybe it's safe to say the Scottish Rite goes a little deeper into the lessons, or it amplifies what we learn in Blue Lodge, or do you think it's totally different in your opinion?
I think it's totally different.
Okay.
Not in a
Yeah.
crazy way, but I think that it identifies as a Scottish Rite, and Scottish Rite is its own, and it's special the way that it is, right? But again, you're going to see some of the same things that you're going to hear for some of the Blue Lodge stuff there, but it's a total different system. It's like college, so to speak. I mean, it's totally the same but totally different at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Well, yeah, because I brought some books today, and then I have Morals and Dogma. So
It's a classic.
it's a classic book, right? Albert Pike, and it's deep. I'm not gonna lie, I'm still in the middle of it, and I started reading it before I became a Mason, and it's still like super deep. And then you got other books like the Masonic Pageant I brought, and and just other books, about the historical connections and the inception of the Scottish Rite. So I think it's interesting. I think they can be considered like the high grades. I think they could be considered very esoteric for those that have eyes to see. And I think it's there, but I think it's still kind of like Blue Lodge Masonry. You still gotta dig for it. You still have to be able to have the eyes to see it, and some may not have them, may not be looking for that.
Sure.
But I want to say I know it's there, but I'm ever searching to keep finding the connections. But one I could say is, think about this. There's 32 degrees, right? If you're counting all of them, right? You could be a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason. And that, to me, connects to Kabbalah, 32 paths on the Tree of Life. So that right there showed me, so meaning if someone didn't have the prior knowledge, and I think Pike alluded to that you have to have the prior knowledge in these esoteric topics to be able to see it in Masonry.
Yeah.
So it's like if you don't have that foundation, then I feel like it's hard for people to be like, that's not Masonry. That's not how we have been doing it, right? You get the overseers. But I think if you have that prior knowledge, or if you do your research, you'll see it's there. It's evident with numbers and with how it correlates, to other philosophies, So what are your thoughts on that?
Even if a person like joins, like I've got some brothers that are going to join the Scottish Rite and may or may not be so esoterically inclined, right, so to speak, but when they go and they speak to a guy like you, you're going to identify something. It's like, wow, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to put it together. So they're going to. So sometimes like they'll start. Then that's, it's like you drop them a little bit of breadcrumb. They're like, ooh, and now they get started.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not everybody comes in like ready to go, but over time they start to get into it. As they get a little bit more, now they want a little bit more knowledge,
yeah.
right? You give them a little bit of a crumb, now they want the loaf, right? So, I've seen people go on a path where they came in, I'd say, open,
Mm-hmm.
but not heavy into it, but they just went down the path. Now they're giving lectures. So.
Oh, wow.
So it's something that, again, they're going to speak to guys like you. They're going to speak to guys like Larocco. They're going to speak to guys within Scottish Rite, and you may turn people on, to something that's there. There are some people that say the Scottish Rite's not esoteric. I think it's crazy.
Yeah.
No offense.
Mm-hmm.
But it is.
Yeah.
And I think that, once people start to learn a little bit more, you get their interest, and then they start to get it in.
I agree. I think, you have to spark interest. You have to plant seeds too as well, right? Everyone has their own free will.
Sure.
So we're not trying to impede on someone's free will, but you need to open perspectives because think about it. When you go to school, you learn what they teach you. So we're hoping as if you're a parent, I'm not a parent, but if you're hoping as a parent that they're teaching your children, or we're learning in school like stuff that we could use in life, valuable life lessons, or things that are gonna be able to help us to function in society. So I feel like Masonry should be doing the same thing, but when it comes to the esoteric knowledge, is help them to maybe learn how to open up their perspectives, be open-minded, and stay continually seeking, meaning some people, they finish high school, they finish college, and that's it. They don't open a book again.
Yeah.
Or they don't study, or they don't write papers. I feel like with Masonry, especially the Scottish Rite, you're going to, the further you get into it, you're going to be, reading the degrees, and you only get a degree if you're on a degree team or if you're in the Hot Graz Academy, right?
Yep.
So it's understanding that it's pushing further education. Whether it's historical, esoteric, and esoteric's just deeper symbolism, hidden symbolism, right? It's I feel like it's helping and it's promoting that, and I feel like that's something that we need as men and as a society right now. We need to deepen our foundations and get back to the time of the Greek philosophers, get back time to the Romans, get back time to the fathers of the church, by really having that quest for the logos, the quest for that gnosis. That quest for the Kabbalah, the communion or the inspiration from above.
Yeah, I agree. So all that stuff, I think people are seeking something. They may not know automatically what they're
Yeah.
seeking, right?
Correct,
But
yeah.
they know that they're seeking something,
Mhm.
right? Like even prior to becoming Masonry, like I knew I was missing something, right? And then again, you become a Mason, it's great. You find Scottish Rite, it's like amazing,
Yeah.
right? Moral lessons that you get out of these degrees, right? I mean, there's so many lessons and so many of them. I mean, it's hard to it's hard to put a finger on it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, the George Washington degree is my favorite one. That's mine. I mean, hopefully I didn't disclose too much, but yeah, but that's my favorite one.
No, I mean, there's books everywhere now. People could get books. I'm not saying that. Listen, for the viewers, if you plan on joining a Masonic lodge, yeah, I wouldn't recommend reading ahead. It's good to read some stuff like, I read Morals and Dogma, but you could read Morals and Dogma and still not, be prepared and still be, surprised when you go through the degrees. But it's interesting and it's funny. This is how telepathy works. Because I was going to ask you, what's your favorite degree, and you're like, you said it. So I think that's an incredible, impactful degree. It's definitely, there's a lot of good lessons there. It may not be esoteric, but it's very historical.
I like the historical part of it.
Yeah.
I like the historical part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was great. I know that there's a new one. I haven't seen the new one. That's what you get for getting sick.
Honestly, I was really excited about the revival of the older version of the 32nd. Because I didn't experience that when I first went through, right, a couple of years ago. And then the beauty of Masonry to me is like going through the degrees and then being able to be in the degree like for other brothers coming up. That I feel like is the most powerful part of Masonry, is that it's like each one teach one. They're helping you by bringing you in, and then now it's your duty. If you choose so, you could be in the sidelines, and we need the support of the lodge, right? We need the walls of the lodge too.
Sure.
But if you really want to get the full picture, participating in the degrees, I feel like helped out. And when I participated in that 32nd degree, the new version, I was like, wow, this is great. This is super esoteric. I was so excited about it.
And you get to read it, right?
Yeah.
And you got, because you're not getting it any other way. So now you're able to
Yes.
oh, this is cool.
And think about it. And if for someone to say that the Scottish Rite is not esoteric, that practice alone is an esoteric practice. Meaning, just because you join, you become a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason, doesn't mean that you received the actual degree. Is like the Blue Lodge, we get a book. You could always go through that, right?
Sure.
Scottish Rite, you won't be able to, because it's esoteric. It's hidden. It's hidden unless you decide to serve and
Right.
be in a degree, or serve as far as further education within the Scottish Rite College and learning. That's the only other chance we actually get a copy of the degrees for research.
Right.
So I think that practice alone, that's esoteric.
Sure.
It's hidden, and it's only available for the true seekers or the true servants of the craft.
And there's nothing against people that are not into it, because
No, of
Scottish
course.
Rite's got something for everyone.
Yeah.
Right. Whether you want to do charity, if you want to get into the esoterics, I mean, there's stuff to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great organization.
We got a great holiday party coming up, on the 19th.
There is.
So yeah, there's good stuff. There's fellowship there. It's there. The fellowship is great there. I really enjoy it. The conversations before and the conversations after are always great. Especially if you sit with Larocco on his table, you know you're going to get some deep stuff.
You're gonna get a treat.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a treat.
And that's the beauty of it, that when I just being involved in that and just the deepness, the richness of it, of the conversations above, below, even in the barbecues.
Everything.
Some deep conversations in the barbecues.
Yeah.
Where it's like
the
Wow.
place you want to be. Like, it's like, how could you say it? If you wanted to be a fly on the wall somewhere,
Yeah.
Scottish Rite's a great place, to be. Like, if you were going to be a fly on the wall, that would kind of be the place. But now you're not on the fly on the wall; you're a seat at the table. So, you're gonna get some interesting conversations.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I've been down there to 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning with like Javier, and
We
and
had
other
some
brothers,
great
and it's like
conversations with Javier,
we're
yeah.
getting White Castle like 1 a.m. It's like, and we're still down there. And by the way, we're in the dark, right?
Yeah.
The lights are like not working in the place, but we're still downstairs. We got lanterns and stuff.
Wow.
And yeah, it just didn't end. Conversations just kept going and going and going.
It's interesting. That's how I feel at my other Blue Lodge at Alcyone, it's the same way. Like, there's so many like-minded brothers there that are really into the craft or have spiritual practice, and they understand, the significance and the power of transmission, right? And sometimes we're there, 1, 2 in the morning, because the conversations are just so great. Where I always feel like charged up driving there and charged up driving back. Even though it's a long ride for me, right? It's just still the feeling of it. It's like, wow, like, whatever's going on in my life at work, personal life, going there, or going to Scottish Rite too as well. I feel great, driving there and driving back. Like, it's like, it's hard to explain, but it's just a rewarding feeling.
You get a sense of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And that's great. I love that, right? I mean, how many times you go to a lodge, you're like, you had a great night. It's like, yeah, right? You want to go to the next lodge, meet the next night, someone else's lodge. You want to just keep it going.
Yeah. And listen, and that's so possible. Being in, many concordant bodies,
Sure.
It gets to a point where, I'm out Monday night, whether it's for my Blue Lodge, the Shrine, or the Commandery. I'm out Tuesday nights, whether it's for my chapter, my Blue Lodge. Wednesday nights, I'm usually off so I can teach a tarot class, right? But Thursday nights, I'll be at the Scottish Rite, right? And if we do degrees on the weekends, Crypto Council now, so that'll be at and then we got the Grotto. So it's like, you could be out every night.
Yeah.
You could definitely be out every night. So the craft, I don't think, is lacking in the fellowship department, or in being able to get involved, being able to be heard and to contribute. There's many ways to contribute, but I definitely recommend, if any new brothers or brothers that are interested in the craft, you gotta knock, you gotta seek, you gotta make the first step, and then you gotta continue to put effort into the craft, because you're gonna get a lot out of it.
You gotta. I mean, listen, what is it? Maybe like 90% is just showing up. Right, in a lot of cases, right? Just showing up, right? Like you're doing like your job. You're contributing by showing up in a lot of places, right? So as long as you can get that going, I mean, other things will fall into place.
Yeah.
And just having people come out, that's the big deal. Like I try never to miss a meeting unless I'm like sick. Like a couple of times, a couple of weeks ago, I was deadly sick, and I was like, damn, I feel like I was missing out.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I don't think I've missed any meetings, concordant body meetings, in a while. The only times I ever missed any meetings was maybe because I was like away on vacation, And even on the vacation, I'm checking out lodges or checking out nice temple sites and stuff. So it's like a big part of my life, right?
I couldn't imagine life without masonry. I can't. I just couldn't imagine. I love being a mason. I love being a mason. I absolutely love being a mason. I love it all. I love every aspect of it.
Yeah.
All of it. You got to take the good, the bad, all of it, though. I love it all. I could not imagine my life without it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, for me, it definitely helped me to gain more confidence, especially in public speaking. Maybe 5 years ago, I couldn't do this. This was like a hard thing. My heart would beat like crazy. I was having trouble stuttering. I couldn't do public speaking. People don't understand how that's possible, but yeah, it was hard for me, and masonry helped me to gain my voice and be able to learn how to use proper rhetoric, with all the stuff we learn within the the second degree and stuff, and put into action and learn how to speak, amongst men, gentlemen, brothers.
Sure. I mean, listen, you got to feel comfortable. I mean, even some of the work that we have to do during degrees, I think it's probably meant to be challenging. Challenge yourself, right? Like, wow, when you're done doing your part, you feel a sense of accomplishment. Like, yeah, I prepared and I laid it down. It's like you can make it happen. So if you could do that, you could do much, plenty of other things in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's great.
So, a couple more questions here I have for you. So, how does Freemasonry and specifically the Scottish Rite contribute to modern society? Like, what ways do you see that it contributes to modern society, or maybe there's some ways you've been involved with that contribute to modern society?
Yeah. So, illustrious brother Louis Saavedra last year Most people who know me know I'm pretty active with, with my son's, travel team. He's a baseball player. So Louis been trying to get this League of Yes. We actually got rained out a couple times. So basically, Scottish Rite's in the community. And I never really mix my fraternity with, the other, like my, these baseball teams that I'm a part of, right?
Okay.
But when they said that, the weather was right this year, League of Yes, which is a special needs baseball, and Scottish Rite guys were showing up. I said, Louis, I was like, do you want me to see if I can, get the GM to bring down the 12 and the 13U team? He's like, that'd be tremendous. So we had all the brothers from the Scottish Rite down there. Plus, I had 2 baseball teams, my son's a part of.
Oh, wow.
And they all came through, and everybody mingled, and it was a fantastic day. I mean, that's one of the things that we've done, right? And then a couple of years ago, me and Louis were on the phone, and I was just talking I'm like, what do you want to get done? And he's like, I want to feed people for Thanksgiving. I was like, by the way, this is like 3rd week of October, right? Maybe so we had like a month. And I was like, you want to feed people? He's like, yeah. I was like, all right. He's like, all right, what? I was like, all right, we're doing it. He's like, yeah. I was like, 100%. So I hung up, called somebody up, made a flyer, got it out. First year we did it, 1,600 pounds of turkey.
Wow.
Right? And we were going from Howard Beach to Brentwood, right? This year we come around, year 2, 2,000 pounds. People are eating. We're out there making a difference. We're not just talking the talk. We're out there walking the walk, We're getting the turkeys. We're making sure people are eating. And we're not thinking about anything outside of people being people and people needing to eat, right? Nothing political on either side, where they're being delivered or nothing like that, right? It was an awesome experience, from churches to Ronald McDonald House this year. And it's got bigger. Next year, I would imagine it's going to get even bigger. So this is something that Scottish Rite's doing. We will continue to do, and I will continue to help for as long as I can breathe. So
that's amazing. Yeah, and I remember the last year you called me too about it. And it's powerful to see it in action, right? It's one thing to hear about great charitable works, but to see it in action or to take action, or to make things happen. Because there's brothers that might have the idea, and then there's brothers that could execute.
Yeah.
And we need both. We need the ideas and we need execution, and then the brotherhood comes together and makes it happen. I think that's an amazing thing, and I think that's stuff that the craft needs to do more of. Other lodges getting involved, but I think the Scottish Rite does great. Can you touch on the Dyslexic Center too as well, and all? Because I know that's another.
I think that's Scottish Rite's. That's their biggest charity.
Okay.
Dyslexic Center. So, yeah, I mean that's their number one charity.
That's great. Yeah. So, winding down to the time here, so I have a couple more questions. So, what advice would you give someone considering joining the Scottish Rite?
Get a petition. Fill out the check. Do your 4th degree. Get it going. Don't wait. Don't neglect Blue Lodge, ever. But go to Scottish Rite. Enjoy that. I'm promising you. If you're thinking about Scottish Rite, you know what you're looking for, and there's a very good chance you're going to find what you're looking for at Scottish Rite. I promise you. I knew what I was looking for. It was there, And again, if it's not there, you're going to be around people that can move you in the direction of where you're looking to go, because everybody comes from a lot of different backgrounds, but everybody has a lot of commonality there. So I would definitely get a petition, join. Don't neglect your Blue Lodge, but you should have that experience. If you're thinking about it, you know what you're looking for. It's probably there. Yeah,
I agree. It's like you said, it's not like you're going to another Blue Lodge. You're going to a valley, and like, what is a valley? Valley is what it means as a body of land, right? A valley. So it's like this is where other like-minded brothers of all different walks of life, all different lodges, different counties, right, come together and practice Masonry. So yeah, you're right. You will find it there. You won't be dissatisfied there, and I think it'll enrich your hearts to do more research and then bring more light to your Blue Lodge too as well.
Yeah, I think so. Valley of Rockville Center is one of the friendliest valleys on the planet. Just a little plug, but it's the truth. It's the truth. I've never met any person that was unhappy with the Valley of Rockville Center, and I think that's there's a lot of people there. But there are a lot of great people there. They make you feel at home. And I know how it is. You're joining, another body, and you don't really know anybody. Trust me, this valley, you're gonna feel at home. You're gonna be welcome. You're not gonna feel like the one guy popping up like you're at a networking meeting and you're like, oh, I got a network now. No, they treat you like family there.
Yeah, definitely. The brotherhood is strong there, and I feel very close to my brothers. Come up to me, hi, how you doing? Conversations. Some of them will say, oh, they've seen some of the past podcasts, and it's just great. It's like you feel like loved and welcomed, and you feel heard there. I enjoy it. I think the same thing. Scottish Rite definitely. No, I don't want to say like saved my Masonic journey, but it added to it, right? And going through the degrees, now I'm going through other degrees and different bodies. I'm like, oh, that's similar to the Scottish Rite. So it's just told in a different angle. And to me, I love that. I love seeing correlations and connections within the whole family of Masonry.
Yeah. See, Scottish Rite's pretty awesome. It's something that I think for the most part, seriously, get a petition, sign up, come to the Valley. It's awesome.
I agree. So, okay, final question, then I'll have you do any closing remarks. So, how do you see the Scottish Rite evolving in the future, and what legacy do you hope to leave behind? I know this is an important thing to you.
So, listen, man, I think with Scottish Rite, what you have to do is, some people don't truly get involved all the time, right? But this is what I tell even at Blue Lodge, right? If capable men don't step up to do work, right, this thing dies. Now, my legacy, so I have a son. He's 12 years old. A lot of the things I do are to make sure that I'm contributing to this craft and continue, for its longevity, right? So that when he's of age, if he chooses to knock, that I've left something there, or, at least contributed to something that he can take to the, in his life, right? And if it skips, and it has to be one of my son, either my son's son or my daughter's son, if we get, grandsons, and maybe it's that next generation, I want them to be like, any lodge they go to, in and around, if they know me, they'd be like, your granddad, or your dad, he's a real Mason.
That's great. That's amazing. It's like, we got to be the custodians of it, and we have to be the stewards too as well. We have to, make sure that, this great fraternity that we love, we cherish, right, dear, it's there, for others to experience, whether, blood family or just human beings that need it. I feel like the society today really needs it, and really needs to get back in touch with some, ancient or more traditional ways of furthering your education and your spiritual growth beyond, school and your traditional social circle.
People need structure, right? I feel that Scottish Rite, Masonry in general, provides a lot of structure for people. Now, I come from a pretty small family. I'm an only child, right? So I never had a brother or a sister. But now I've got hundreds of brothers. I've met so many great men in this fraternity, and it's like now my family just got extended like so much, and there's a lot of love. It's a lot of love, and it's nice, because you choose these people, right? Whereas sometimes with family, you can't choose your family, but you could choose your friends. In this case, you could choose your brothers, right? And it's amazing being around them. Again, like I said, I can't imagine my life without this.
I agree. So, any closing remarks?
Listen, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I watch them all the time. I enjoy them. Didn't think I was going to be on one, but here I am. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to watching more of your podcasts.
No problem, brother. Thank you for coming on the show.
You got it. Be good.
You too.